G'day folks, Tim Armstrong. Welcome to Think Fishing. Thanks for joining me again. So you know how productive it can be using soft plastics on data jig heads or ball-headed jig heads like this. Problem is you're sick to death of getting snagged up, spending time unhooking from snags, snapping your line off, throwing good money after bad, buying more jig heads and more soft plastics because every time you go fishing you lose half of them. Now the standard ball-headed jig, you know, they're great for fishing around open water. So if you're fishing in the estuary, if you're fishing in the bay, they work well because there's no snags. But if you want to fish them in fresh water, if you want to fish near the bottom, you've got to, well, first of all, you can't really fish near the bottom because they're like snag magnets. If there's a bit of rock down there, if there's a clump of weed or a lay down tree, you're going to get hooked up. In fact, if you fish them anywhere around fish habitat, you're going to get snagged up, which is kind of against the whole point of the thing. So let's have a look at what we can do about that. There is a solution. It catches a heap of fish, and it can be fished around the thickest weed. It can be fished over the rockiest bottoms, and it can even be fished over and around tree stumps and laydowns. So what if I said you could get around all those issues with a ball-headed jig and still fish a soft plastic? Well, you can. And you can do it with a far more natural presentation that allows you to fish as fast or as slow as you like. So today I'm going to take you through the Carolina rig. I'm going to show you how to set it up and how to fish it, what it is, and I'm going to show you what it's good for. I'm going to show you where you can catch fish with it and what sort of soft plastics you can use with it. So here we have it. This is a Carolina rig. So you'll notice I've got a lure at this end on an EWG or extra wide gap hook. That is the key to not getting snagged up. So you can see, you can't see the hook point along there. It's not going to snag on anything, but when a fish bites, pushes down on your soft plastic and exposes that hook, and you hook them up. Then we have, in this case, we've got about 2 feet of leader. You can go 6 inches, you can go 3 feet. Generally around that 2 to 3 feet is best. You get the best action. It's connected to a swivel, and that swivel acts as a stop for a weight that would otherwise roll up and down your line. Now the beauty of this is your weight is not connected directly to your lure. So your lure behaves very naturally. As you drag that weight along, it'll swim along through the water column. When you stop, it'll float down to the bottom. It'll glide down basically. You can't get that with a jig head. What sort of rod do you use? Okay, you can use whatever you're currently using for your jig fishing or your hard body lure fishing. But if you're buying something specifically just for the Carolina rig, tend to go a little bit longer because you're fishing with a leader, so a longer rod helps with that, with casting. And probably something that's a little bit stiffer and a little bit stronger because you don't have to stick with 1/4 ounce weights or ball-headed jigs that are 1/16 of an ounce. You can go with a 1/2 ounce. You can go with a full ounce if you want. Again, because it's not connected to your lure, so it's not going to impede the action of it, but it will allow you to cast a much greater distance and sink to the bottom quicker. So there we have it. Oh, and of course, I'm using a bait caster. You don't have to use that. A bit like your rod, you can use whatever reel you're already using, and if that's a spinning rod, no problem. What's it good for? Well, aside from that magnificent gliding weightless action of your lure, it's great for covering ground. So it's a power fishing technique. It enables you to cover a lot of ground fairly quickly. As I mentioned before, it's great over rocky bottoms. It's great when fishing through weed and over the top of laydowns, timber and snag. So it's really good for your native fish. What about the soft plastics? What works? Well, just about anything really. In fact, the whole idea is to use whatever soft plastic you would normally use on a jig head. So if we have a look here, you know, the likes of the Gulp grubs, very, very popular. They catch a ton of fish. They work really well on this. You can fish, you know, your creature baits like your Kitech crazy flappers. They're awesome. This is one of my favorites. This is a keeltail worm. Man, these things catch fish. They're great. As we saw before, I've got a darter, pintail, or a fluke. Soft plastic yabby imitations, they work really well. And even your traditional paddle tail swim bait, every bit as good as any other lure. Of course, a key component is that extra wide gap hook, which, as you know, enables you to fish weedless and snagless. Let's just put those over here. So how do you fish it? Well, it's really simple. Cast it out as far as you can. Keep your bail arm off and allow that weight to sink to the bottom on slack line, loose line. When it hits the bottom, don't wind in. Put your bail arm over and just move your rod from right to left and drag that weight along the bottom. So what that does, obviously, that moves your lure. Also, a bit of a benefit to it as well, by dragging that weight, it's far more sensitive. You can feel where you're going, where you're moving from a soft or a clay bottom over to a rocky bottom. You can feel every little rock as you pull that weight over it. So that's always good if you know there's fish are likely to be in that sort of transition area or around the rocks. It's going to help you, you know, detect that, which is always good. But also by holding your rod down, pointed down, that keeps that weight keeps it on the bottom the whole time, really, and that's what you're wanting to do. If you're winding too fast, you can lift that weight up, and you know that works, but it's kind of not the whole purpose of this particular technique. So again, move that lure anything from 6 inches to 3 feet, you know, whatever works for the fish at the time. Then stop. Let your weight sink to the bottom if it's not already there. Let your lure sink to the bottom. It'll naturally glide down, which looks great. And hold on for 2 or 3 seconds. Let it just sit there. And then if you don't get a bite, drag it again. But what you'll quite often find is that you'll catch a fish's attention as soon as you start to move that weight along the bottom. They'll see your lure. Hopefully they'll move over and take it. If they don't, quite often they'll be just sitting there looking at it. And as soon as you move your weight again, that lure shoots off, then they grab it. So it's pretty darn effective. Excuse me. So where can you fish it? Well, it works really well from the bank. If you're a bank angler, this is a good method for you. But equally, of course, it works great on boats. In fact, you can even troll with it. So if you want to use a weedless soft plastic and you want to keep it near the bottom while you're trolling, this is a great way to do it. In terms of structure that you can fish it around, it's really good for those rocky or sloping banks, really good for rocky points, grassy flats where there's intermittent bits of weed here and there and you need to fish through it or around it. This works well. But most of the time I'm using it in either a reservoir or a lake because you need to cover a lot of ground, and particularly where there's not a lot of features to cast to, this is really, really good for identifying spots holding fish. So basically you can use it just about anywhere, particularly when you need to fish close to the bottom and you need to cover water. So let's get out on the water and I'll show you just how well it works. Beautiful fish. Beautiful. Okay, let's try that again. Another good one. Look at that. That's heavy. That is a cracker. Oh, come on, calm down. So the Carolina rig. Today we covered a few things. We covered what it is, how to set it up, how to fish it, where to fish it, and just how effective it can be. So most importantly, it's going to save you a lot of money because you're not getting snagged up with a ball-headed jig. It's going to save you a lot of frustration because you're not retying every 5 minutes. But more importantly than anything, it's going to help you catch a heap more fish. So I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one.